goes out to our sponsors, Insperity and Rich Commercial Realty, and of course us here at Technology Associates. This month, our topic is aligning IT with your business strategy. And I'll be presenting, so you're all getting the short end of the stick. Normally we have somebody who's pretty interesting present these topics, so just bear with me and we'll get through it. So a little bit of background on me. IT career spanning over 20 years. I started Technology Associates back in 1997, and we've been helping businesses in the Raleigh-Durham area get the most from their IT ever since. Been working with businesses from 20 to 250 desktops and everywhere in between, and my goal today here is to give you some things that we use to help our customers ensure that they're making the best use of their technology investment and really using it for a competitive advantage. So a little bit of housekeeping. You should all have a control panel. You can enter questions at any time. Feel free to do so, and I'll be fielding those questions along the way. And of course, we'll also have time for questions at the end. So without further ado, our agenda for today, a couple of things. One, the grass isn't greener. To give you some pointers on how to get the most out of what you have versus looking for something new. Productivity is your responsibility. How to realize the promise of improved productivity. Give you a couple of tips on that. Get right to the core of really leveraging technology in your business. Getting engaged and why it takes a business owner or manager to get this right. Metrics every business should know. How to really measure your IT success. I'll show you how to calculate a few metrics that we use here day in and day out and how you can use them in your business. The IT death spiral, what it is and how to avoid it. 5 questions to avoid unnecessary IT costs. And this really speaks to owners and CEOs, how to cut through the tech speak and get right to the core of the issue before making a decision on IT expenditures. And keys to driving better performance, the most important task, at least as far as I see it from IT. So first, before we get started, it's impossible to align business IT and your business strategy unless you have a business strategy. So I'm assuming you've got one. If not, probably any money you spend on IT is wasted. So without a solid business strategy, spending's completely reactive. If you don't have a clear written business strategy, then get these 2 books, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits by Vern Harnish and Traction by Gino Wickman. These 2 books will get you up and running with a clear business strategy in no time. Don't try to make it perfect, just make it good. Your plan is going to change over time. And it's more important to have a plan, really any plan, than to have the perfect plan. You can get both these on Amazon. You'll spend a total of about $40, and these will walk you through getting a good strategic plan in place. So first, the grass isn't greener. There is no technology that's going to work perfectly. Make your business wildly productive and eliminate all your IT costs. If there were such a thing, everybody would have it, and I would be a farmer. So it just doesn't exist. Frustrations around technology often lead businesses to look for the cool new tool. Lots of business owners are frustrated by roadblocks that are put up by their employees or vendors and start to search for a fresh start, a new system or a new whiz-bang thing that will get them to their goal in one big leap. It doesn't exist. All technology has roadblocks that in the end are easy excuses for lack of results. And if you can't navigate around the roadblocks that you have now, you're going to be stopped cold by different roadblocks in the future. So just accept that any technology is going to have its challenges, and if you want the benefits that are promised, you simply need to push through these inevitable barriers that are going to come up. Remember also that IT is just a tool to achieve your business objectives. It's not an objective in and of itself. So don't lose sight of the fact that IT is supposed to help, not hinder you. Sometimes the simplest solution is often the best, especially when you lack defined objectives. Here's a great example. What's the best project planning tool around? You know, there are tons that are out there, a lot of them very complicated, costly, and increasingly hard to integrate. How about just use Word and Excel to get your thoughts down first? If you really need something like Project, that need will become clear, but avoid rushing to install complicated technology solutions to solve a simple problem. Before you're looking for the next tool, be sure you're an expert in the one you have. Certainly before you spend any time or energy looking at changing IT systems, you need to be 100% confident that what you have is being fully utilized. I consulted with a business many years ago who was convinced that what they needed was a new application to manage their customers on. And his reasoning was that the new application had tools to help them cross-market to existing customers. And his thought was that capability would easily justify the cost of the application. So he engaged us to look at it and help with the decision, and we did quite a bit of poking around. But one thing we discovered was that the system that they currently had already had that capability. He just wasn't using it. So it was a quick fix that saved his business tens of thousands of dollars in software, hardware, and training costs. So before you start looking at the next one, make sure that you're really getting all the good stuff out of the one that you've got. Let's see here. And I think I've missed a slide. Yeah. So no, here's my favorite. The grass isn't greener. There are always trade-offs, and unless you understand these, the trade-offs between technology, you're setting yourself up for a huge mistake. And the best example I can have of that right now is the cloud. The cloud is purely a marketing tool. It's not new technology. It's been around in one form or another for years and years, ever since IBM launched timeshare options for mainframes. It's simply the next evolution of delivering computing power on demand and is following kind of an ever-changing tug-of-war between private local resources and shared remote resources. It has its place, don't get me wrong, but it's no more, it's not a panacea, no more so than the PC was or Novell NetWare was. So just be guarded against that and don't get caught up in that. So productivity, it's your responsibility. It's not the IT systems. Processes and procedures, not IT, drive productivity. The most wasteful spend in IT is implementing a tool without the proper processes and procedures around it to take advantage of these promised benefits. One of the tools that I see implemented like this, that most poorly implemented, I should say, is a CRM system. So often we'll see line of business applications being used for only the most basic of tasks, completely missing the opportunity to leverage real productivity enhancements like the cross-marketing example in the prior slide. The tool is there, but it's not going to use itself. You've got to develop processes for your people to follow to use the tool. Again, I mentioned CRM. So often I see CRMs implemented in sales forces. They're simply an address book. And if you're going to do that, just use Outlook. Without logging calls and meetings and setting up scheduled appointments and doing all the things that you should be doing in the CRM, you're wasting your time with it. Be sure you're getting 100% of the juice. So look at it this way. Your competitive advantage as a business is in how you do things, not the IT tools that you use. Most businesses get their line of business applications right off the shelf. Because of that, your competitors can get the same thing and probably do. So be sure to develop your own unique approach. Where do you get that from? Well, you get it from your strategic plan. Make sure you have that first. But build this unique approach based on your experience and then use processes and procedures to ingrain this behavior in your business. Then and only then can you really leverage technology. Here's a great example of this. At our company, we do something called a best practice audit or a best practice review for our customers. And when we first developed it, you know, the initial knee-jerk reaction was to go out and buy a cool system that would do all this. What we decided to do was just develop a basic written checklist in Word. It was clumsy. It involved a lot of manual labor, but at least we were getting it done right out of the box. We learned a lot from this experience about what works and what doesn't, and that prepared us to automate this process using an awesome tool. And if we had purchased the tool first, I venture to guess we would not be as far along today as we are because of our focus on the process and not necessarily implementing technology. Encourage, fund, actively support ongoing training on core IT systems. This is important. Train, train, train. It's crazy to me that a business will spend 5 figures on a new core system and shove their people through 1 day of training, never to repeat it. Your core IT systems are constantly evolving. Take the time to ensure your people keep up with these changes so you're able to squeeze maximum productivity for your investment. Build those internal expertise around your core systems. Be sure your folks know your systems inside and out. They need to be experts in your technology. Not the underlying bits and bytes, but the applications themselves and how they use them to service your customers and generate revenue for your company. Ongoing training, super important. Lastly, from a productivity standpoint, remain open to redesigning and simplifying your internal processes, business processes. So one thing that we see often is a business will go out and they'll invest a ton of money in a new system to replace something they feel isn't meeting their needs. They dump, once the system's in place, they'll turn around and dump a ton more money on the new system, changing it to look and act exactly like the old one. And I've never really understood this. So if you're making an investment to improve your business, please be open to redesigning, simplifying your process. Initially, defer to the workflows designed into the new application. Can you live with it or can't you? Does it really need to be addressed? Is it measurably worse than what you're already doing? And if not, just roll with it. There are really bigger battles to fight. So get engaged from an owner's perspective. Don't delegate important decisions around IT. As a business manager and owner, you've got to be just involved in IT as you are in understanding your financials. Know what's going on, how things are working, what needs attention. This is the single biggest thing that will help you avoid surprises and enforce a level of alignment that delegation just can't achieve. There's just no way to get around that. Use the smell test to spot BS. Refuse any of the tech speak. So as a business owner or a senior manager, you're making tons of really tough, hard decisions each and every day. You've got your hands in sales, HR, accounting, operations. Don't let IT get the best of you. I see way too many botched projects that should never been undertaken simply because, you know, a decision maker gave up trying to understand something, threw his hands up and gave his approval. If something can't be explained in a way that makes sense to you, then you probably shouldn't do it. Don't put up with any tech speak. Always refer to your strategic plan as a gauge. So you remember your strategic plan, right? Use this as a gut check when your IT guy comes to you with the latest and greatest thing. How does it impact your overall plan? How does it help move your business forward? If you can't answer these simple, basic questions, this is a huge indicator of a misalignment. You're letting the tail wag the dog. Don't go down that path. Insist on a quarterly IT review and strategy session. As painful as it may sound, and I notice actually a couple of our customers on this webinar who go through this process, so thank you for putting up with it. But as painfully as it sounds, insist on that quarterly status meeting. Some things that you need to cover, some metrics around reactive support, projects, updates, quarterly business objectives, how IT can help your business, those type of things. This doesn't need to be a big, huge, drawn-out, 2-day meeting. Get it in a couple hours and just help reset and make sure that IT is there supporting, doing its job, and helping you guys go into the next quarter. And lastly, carefully consider the business case before making any investments. I've got 5 questions we use later in the webinar I'll give you just to kind of get a gut check on potential payoff. And we're not talking about running long ROI calculations here, just a gut check before you make big investments in IT. So metrics every business should know. These are important metrics. We use them here internally to help judge how we're doing. You should be using these as well, whether you're handling your IT inside or whether you're outsourcing, either way, and I'll explain why. So the first one we look at is reactive tickets per user per month. And this is the number of reactive tickets each month divided by the number of devices or users. However you do it, it doesn't matter. This is a key indicator of whether or not, month over month, the majority of your resources are being dedicated to reactive or proactive tasks. A proper proactive process can help drive tickets per endpoint per month to 0.33 or even lower. We often hear prospects tell us that, hey, their IT company is so reactive. They're always reactive. They're not proactive. Well, my question is always, well, how reactive are they? And how does it compare to what you could get elsewhere before you're assuming that something needs to be changed? Average ticket or total resolution time on tickets. So the total number of hours spent on reactive tickets, this ties directly to lost productivity. This measures really the true impact of your IT approach on your staff's productivity. And while it's not 100% accurate to assume that for every hour of work on a reactive ticket, there's a corresponding hour of someone on your staff not doing their job, it is often the case. So while working on ticket, the technician's normally on the machine. So including both time spent by inside and outside support persons on this. And by the way, if you don't know what this figure is, then you need to demand that that's being tracked, whether it's an internal person, their time, or somebody outside. Same-day close. The percentage of reactive tickets close the same day. So this is a measure of how long tickets linger. There is some level of lost productivity here, although it's really hard to measure. And since you rarely can quantify what the user isn't able to do, but it's always a good indicator of the level of attention your staff or your provider places on getting issues resolved quickly. Infrastructure costs and support costs per user per year. Again, okay, there we go. So again, very important. What we're talking about here is the total of hardware, software, licensing fees divided by the number of users. Don't include one-time projects or big line of business application upgrades, but just the ongoing day in, day out costs of infrastructure and support costs. If you're running internal support, include that as well. It should be an easy thing to take the number of hours, multiply it by an average salary, loaded salary, and kind of figure out what those costs are. So why are these metrics important? And here's why. Let's take an example. And this is an example, a customer of ours. This is a 30-person company. They were experiencing about 1 ticket per user per month, and they had an average ticket resolution of 2 hours. Do the math on that, and that's 60 hours of lost productivity a month. Doesn't sound like a lot when you talk about 30 tickets, but when you add it all up, there's a huge impact there. What we were able to do was to drop their tickets per user dramatically. If you can just get it down to 0.5 and an average resolution time of an hour, in this example, you're getting 45 hours of productivity back. So this is a really crucial figure to see whether or not your investment in IT support is really paying off or whether it's holding you back. Infrastructure and support costs are important to track because they give you a year-over-year indicator of your costs around IT. And it's a very good starting point from which to evaluate changes in how you pay for IT. Example, should we outsource? Should we move to the cloud? This is a good place to gut check your investments in IT against your peers and to start building some discipline around budgeting for IT. You probably noticed that the response time wasn't on the list. In reality, who cares? Response time is simply a trick that IT providers use to meet quote-unquote SLAs that at the end of the day really don't impact your business. Wouldn't you rather judge your IT provider based on how quickly they got your stuff back working than how quickly they responded? So how do these performance metrics impact the alignment of IT and business strategy? Simple. If all the money that you spend with your provider goes to fighting reactive issues, then your provider becomes more and more reactive. Less and less time is left over to spend on those proactive tasks. It is the #1 indicator of a misalignment between business and IT strategy. It's simple. If you can't ignore the reactive issues, they've got to be dealt with. But too often, the proactive and strategic tasks that ensure alignment are pushed aside to make room for the reactive. And at the end of the day, there's no time left over. It's really the level of reactive support that's at the root of productivity around IT. If you get this right, everything else will fall into place. I promise. I've seen it happen time and time again. So first step, track your numbers. Second step, do some analysis on the reactive tickets. Drive that stuff down and give yourself a little bit of headroom to do the important tasks around aligning IT to your business strategy. So 5 quick questions to avoid unnecessary IT costs. Regardless of what the technology investment is or what the spend is going to be, get through these 5 questions. They're much more important than how many megahertz or gigabytes or whatever else you got going on. First, what specific business goal are we trying to achieve? How does this tie into our strategic plan? If it doesn't, then why are we getting distracted by this? You probably don't need to do it. Probably don't need to make the investment. Is there another way of achieving this goal? Don't invest thousands of dollars in a technology solution if at the end of the day you get a college intern to come in and spend a few weeks to get you what you need. Don't always jump to getting that new tool in. How will you measure the success of the project? So when it's all said and done, how are you going to measure whether or not this investment was worthwhile? What's going to be your key indicator that this was a good decision and it was implemented properly? And I'm going beyond on time and on budget. You know, those are assumed type of things. Dig a little deeper on this. What will the impact on your business be and how are you going to measure it? What happens if we don't invest this money? So ask yourself this. What is the absolute worst thing that's going to happen if we don't make this spend? Is there any way to mitigate that risk? So oftentimes we'll hear prospects say, oh, you know, we've got this quote for this to upgrade this server because it's 7 years old and da-da-da-da-da. You're getting some pressure to replace it. Really, what's the real risk here? It's unplanned downtime. I would probably direct you to look at a good DR solution first rather than replacing that server. Get to the core of the issue. And what other things could we invest in? Look at the trade-off against technology. Not other technologies, but what else could you spend this money on? Can you use this money to buy advertising, hire a salesperson, open a new territory, send your users to training on the systems you have, whatever? Would these be better investments? And would they be more in line with your strategic plan? If so, spend your money there. Don't keep buying servers and systems. So the key to driving better performance. This is a huge thing for me. The most important area that everybody needs to be leveraging technology in their business is that of analytics. There are really few, if any, priorities higher than having real-time data to know how you're doing on key activities that advance you towards your goals. You've got to have point-and-click drill-down capabilities on your KPIs, your key performance indicators, income statements. All of those things need to be used as the basis for decisions used to drive better performance in your business. If you're finding out what happened last month, at the end of the month, it's useless. It's too late. You can't make any changes there. You need to know what's happening this month in order to impact your results. So what are these KPIs? These KPIs come out of your strategic plan, and they've got to be tracked and reported each and every day. And if not in at least real time, do it manually. Get it in somewhere, however you do it. This is an easy task for IT, and it's one of the things that can help you enforce a clear alignment between business and technology. It's going to impact every decision you make. For example, here, we don't guess when we need to hire staff. Okay, we have the numbers to know exactly where we are in support and network administration and VCIO. We've got averages across all of our customers that allow us to forecast our staffing levels as we add new customers. So we know when we need to hire somebody. We know on average what it takes when we bring on a new customer. Business analytics, real-time data, key performance indicators, these are the things that first and foremost your IT system should be providing for you in real time. So, questions. Throw them out there, type them in. I'll do my best to kind of field them as we're going along and give you guys some pointers on implementing some of this technology. So first, okay, here's a question. Starting points for metrics. I think I mentioned some of these around reactive support. I would say that if you don't have a good function, a good proactive process around driving tickets down. Number one, just start tracking them. A good target to shoot for would be, less than a ticket per endpoint. If you can get it to 0.5, that would be great. A good average to shoot for on same day or average time close would be, under an hour and a half. We target an hour. And then the same day close of 50% would be great. So in our business, what we use is 0.25 for tickets per endpoint, 1 hour for resolution, 70% same day close, just to kind of give you a touchstone on what the metrics are that we look at. So hopefully that answers your question there. What can be done to lower ticket counts? Okay, so this is a toughie, and there is no magic here. The most important thing you can do to help lower reactive tickets and force yourself to be proactive and get out of the reactive spiral of death is to take the time to just review the reactive tickets over the past 6 months and look for trends. And this is the process we use with our customers. We go through it once a month. What we're looking for is commonalities across users, devices, applications, all of these things. We're looking for anything to happen more than once. And you're just taking a deeper dive into those tickets that kind of stick up as sore thumbs. Normally, these are good indicators of issues related to training or setup around an application or something that needs to be fine-tuned in the network to kind of help turn that noise down. So just spend those few hours digging and formulating a plan around this, and I promise you from experience the payoff is well worth it. If you're not getting this information from your IT provider, demand it. If you're not tracking this information internally and you're doing your own IT help desk, make sure your people are getting it done, because it is the key indicator of whether or not you're spending your resources and time in the right direction. All right. Other questions? Let me cycle through some of this real quick. Let's see. Can I repeat the average metrics? Yes, you bet. So the average metrics, there are 3 tickets per endpoint per month. I would target 0.5. Average resolution, I would target less than 1.5 hours. And same day close, I would target 50%. Those are probably good metrics. Again, ours, what we use is 0.25, 1, and 70. So I hope that answers your question. Okay. So the next question, how do we tell the answer between reactive and proactive? So that's a good one and one that we've struggled with a long time. So here basically it's this. If it used to work yesterday and it doesn't work today, that's a reactive ticket. If it's something like setting up a new user, that's not a reactive ticket. That is a proactive ticket and something that doesn't need to count against the reactive ticket count. Let's see here. Yeah, problems reports of the technology per month that keeps them from being productive. Yep. How many internal IT persons are recommended per employee? Okay, great. That's a toughie, but I'll kind of give you some metrics and where we are at. One of the first things to do here is kind of division of labor. So it's tough to have one person do support and your proactive stuff and your technology consulting. If you're splitting those roles out, normally we'll run one help desk for about every 450 desktops, endpoints. Network administration, a net admin in our business normally handles 12 to 15 customers. So you're talking, probably at least a support person's worth of network there. So I hope that helps. But the real answer to that is really the number of tickets that you're creating. So the first thing to do is to find out the reactive tickets and the close in the average time. So if you know that you take an example customer and say they're generating 50 tickets and you've got an hour worth of average resolution, you know that you got 50 hours of reactive support. That's your bellwether, right? If you can push and drive that down, you could get by with less, but that takes the proactive process. Here's a great one. How can you tell if your provider is reactive or not? They all tell us the same thing, that they have these tools to monitor. Is that really proactive? How do you tell the difference? Great question. So yeah, every IT provider out there is going to tell you they're reactive, right? Here is the key indicator. Are they able to demonstrate that they are driving down reactive issues? And if they're not, then they're not a proactive company. The big thing for us is being a proactive IT company is a transfer of risk where we're willing to take on any and all IT issues. We don't bill by the hour. That holds us automatically accountable. It forces us to be proactive, to make any money doing this. So that's one of the key indicators as to whether they're proactive or reactive. One more question here. What do you use for dashboards? So the dashboards that we have, we developed them, all of that stuff in-house over years. It started out very simple and has grown with our business since. There are a lot of good packages that are out there. Zoho Reports is one that comes to mind. I will encourage you, doing something like a full-fledged dashboard, starting from scratch, can be a pretty daunting task. Don't get bogged down in that. Just get the 3 to 5, maybe 7 key metrics that come out of your strategic plan and just report on them. Start there. If you aren't tracking that, the activities that lead to those key metrics, then you need to start that, right? Start a manual process if you need to. Start an Excel spreadsheet where people go in and type their numbers into every day. However you do it. Don't always rush to that technology solution. You can always build the dashboards around it later, but at least start tracking that data. All right, any other questions? I think I've got through all of them. Yes. Awesome. So again, if you do have questions that come up afterwards, please feel free to email me or give me a call. I invite you to connect on LinkedIn, and if there's anything that we can do in the future to help, please don't hesitate to give us a shout, and thank you very much for your time today.